Well, when it comes to offensive linemen, Ike Ekwonu, guys like that just don't grow on trees. He's very rare. The reason why the NC State offensive lineman has been trending up since the combine, you see him there, forcing coaches and analysts to run the tape back and see what they got here. One thing you'll notice, he's not just 6'4" and 310 pounds and one of those anchors for the offensive line on Sundays. He has good feet, something every franchise QB can use to protect QB1. We'll see that sooner or later when it comes to him. And that's why when you got Ryan Wilson, our draft expert, breaking it down, his latest mock, he has Ekwonu going number 1 out of NC State to the Jags there. Outside of that, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 going in the first 10 picks when it comes to filling those holes on the offensive line. And one thing we talked about this offseason, you got to protect QB1. And speaking of protecting QB1, a guy that knows that pretty well, why not? Ryan Harris himself here to give us the good, the bad, and the big uglies, the next gen that is when it comes to that offensive line, locking in here at HQ. Just out of curiosity here, just to break the ice, what are the next 2 weeks for these prospects as we look closer to the draft here like for them?
It's relief and stress, Brandon. I mean, Tommy Tran thought it was hard to pick his wedding list. You're picking who's coming to your draft party, right? And one thing that fans overlook all the time about the draft is how willing these young athletes are. It's anywhere from Buffalo to Los Angeles and everything in between. And at my time in my draft, I was just saying, please not Buffalo, please not Buffalo, please not Buffalo. But you're really just eager to find where your future begins. And that's something that people lose all the time. And then as soon as you get drafted, people want to grab you. I remember watching you play football since it's like, okay, thank you for that story. Thank you for that story. Everybody wants a piece, but it's an amazing time these next 2 weeks. You really can't do anything but mess it up. And you get to enjoy planning your draft party and inviting who you think you want there. And trust me, you'll invite one too many.
By the way, Ryan, did you make Tommy's list? Because I didn't. I'm just curious.
He had a weight limit on his groomsmen. What's going on with that, man? Come
happens,
on, man.
You know,
Get out of here.
A weight limit?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's sad. You know, we left out. It's okay. We'll just watch it on Instagram and Twitter like everybody else. All right, let's get back to it here. Break down the good and bad when it comes to Ekwonu, possibly going number 1 in Ryan Wilson's draft there.
Ike Ekwonu is the man, the myth, the legend. He is a gigantic human being, fantastic finish. He has things that you cannot coach, right? He's got natural gifts, and one of the things I love is that he finishes downfield. Now, he's somebody who also has a little bit of trouble getting his feet crossed at times, and that can hurt his running backs and linemen, but this is a bona fide number 1 prospect in this year's NFL draft. There is nothing he can't do. And especially if you're Jacksonville, you want to protect your Trevor Lawrence. This is the guy to do it. I'm not surprised he's moved up the board as things have come along here in the draft process. He's fantastic. He can do it all, inside, outside. He can block downfield. He's an exciting player to watch.
Of course, he's been at the top there. Another guy, Evan Neal, at one point was projected number 1, but he's still in the top 3 going through to Houston in that mock draft. The good and bad with him here.
Well, I love Evan Neal. He could also be a bona fide number 1 pick. I mean, one of the things he is incredible in pass protection. He has perfect punch and balance. That's something you rarely see out of an offensive lineman in college. Plus, with his huge size at 6'7" and those athletic box jumps we've seen, he's going to be the best lineman out of Alabama since Evan Mathis. Now, the cons, none. He's got none, Brandon. Okay, maybe one. He's a little bit big, and at the second level, he might struggle. But I'm telling you, Evan Neal is so big that his running backs are going to find the hole easily because of the fact that he is so large. Linebackers are going to have to choose early which side they're going to go on to try and beat him. But Evan Neal is fantastic, and he could also be the number 1 pick in the draft, and I wouldn't be upset with that at all.
It's always something about those Alabama offensive linemen find their ways in that first round. He could be the next year, checking in at 3 in that mock draft. How about Charles Cross out of Mississippi State for you?
Charles Cross is my favorite lineman in this draft. He is athletic. He is fast. He has the speed. He's got punch. He is nasty, too. He's so nasty, he makes grown scouts audibly gasp at the audacity of spearing the guys that he goes against. He also played in one of the best conferences in college football. This, to me, is the best value. Now, maybe a little undersized at 6'5", but here's a guy who can get downfield and who would really be accentuated in a West Coast style offense, using some of his athleticism to get out to the edge to get some of those wide receiver screens. The only con for him is that he may, and I just say may, be a little undersized, as I mentioned, but and he's slow sometimes out of his stance in pass pro, but that gets fixed in training camp, because once you're slow out of your pass pro in training camp, a vet puts you on your tail, you figure out quick the art of jumping the count.
I was going to say, give him a few months. He'll add up in that food bill, and he'll put on some weight. So that undersized thing, we won't have to worry about that sometime in October. We'll see how that pans out. Rod Harris, as always, my friend, breaking it down with the big uglies. The closer we get to the draft, hey, don't forget the guys on All Things Covered doing the same. Breaking down and speaking to Roger McCreary. He's joining Patrick Peterson and Brian McFadden to discuss the journey to the pros. Also that rivalry with Alabama, of course, between those two squads. Download and give them a follow.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.